And hello, everybody. Bet you didn't think I was gonna come back from there. Anyways, hello, everybody. My name is Tengu Kami. Thank you so much for tuning in. 2017 is wrapping up, and we're about to usher in a new era, a new year, a new experience beyond something we have ever experienced before. Why? Because it's something new. It's a new day. And there's a lot that has been talked about, and there's a lot that needs to be talked about. Not in just about 2017 in general, but where we're at currently and where we are going to go in the future. Now, my boy Tanky Tank is scratching the hell out of himself. Tank, lay down. Lay down, Tanky Tank. A good boy. He's such a good boy. I love him so much. Anyways, as I was saying, there's a lot that needs to be talked about. So I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I am a beginning YouTuber. I've just been bringing my channel into fruition. But this is something that's not new. It's new to a lot of you, because I've been like so disconnected from like social media and just anything in general. I've just been more of a private person for a while, but I don't want to make this solely about like me, but at the same time, it's like it's coming to an end. This year is coming to an end, and we're about to begin a new year. So I feel like it's kind of appropriate to kind of give you insight on who I am, because a lot of you, might know me, but have never got a chance to know who I am or anything about me. So to those who do know me, stay tuned, or skip through this part to where we can actually get into a legitimate discussion about things. But I guess to give you like a recap of who I am, my name is Michael Hopkins, and our line name for my YouTube channel is Tengu Kami. So I came up with the name Tengu Kami, one for the Tengu spirit of being like a warrior spirit, of the idea of like ancient, Japanese and ancient Asian or Chinese like mythology. Had this idea of a Tengu spirit, which would always be, either considered like a demonic spirit or a warrior spirit, or it was always like different on whether or not a Tengu was good or bad. But the biggest thing that, from what my understanding, is that they're learning through death, or learning through the passing away of something, ushering in death. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And Kami is actually translated into God. So the Tengu spirit, or the warrior spirit, God. And it's not to be on some Kanye shit, to be like, yo, I'm God or some shit. It's not necessarily that, but it's I don't know. It can be debated on what it means to you, or what it can be translated to. Tengu, I've always felt like I've had a very strong, connection with the Tengu spirit. I don't know how comfortable I feel about saying that, but yeah, that's something that we're going to be exploring in my YouTube channel. A lot of the stuff that I have right now is just gaming, which is nice, because like that's what got me into YouTube. I've been a very avid gamer for most of my life. I've spent countless hours, growing up around video games, staying in tune with them. And, I've always wanted to be a part of gaming, whether it was like game development, the programming, character design, story design. A lot of it intrigued me. Excuse me. So when I found out about like YouTubers getting together and just playing video games, doing something that they enjoy, and, chopping it up and putting it up, excuse me, on YouTube for people to enjoy, that was very inspiring to me, because like it was a way that like I felt like I could connect with the social world, which is like I said, I've been like a more secluded or introvert in some respects, because I felt like I have to go through like a lot of like internal just grinding of a lot of just chipping away of like a lot of the conditioning and programming that has been, you know, just been trying to be enforced onto my life, just by living in where I'm at, you know, the culture and society around me. So to really like step away back and one, look at yourself and look at others and think for yourself. Those are three things that are very, very hard to do. But I definitely try to, you know, improve myself as a person, to really give you the best experience that I can, to be open with you, because the only way that I can be open enough to share anything with you is to be comfortable with myself and my ability to share. And I'm not saying that I'm like the best person. I'm not by any means trying to say that I'm the one that needs to talk about or needs to be the voice of a community. But I feel like the community is lacking a lot of communication amongst different communities, and different forms of thinking and different forms of experience. Because as we usher into this new year and we reflect on 2017, a lot of shit for me personally has happened. This year has progressed, and like some of the worst ways, but also some of the most blessed ways as well. And I say that because let's start 2017. For me, now that you kind of understand, you know, a little bit about me, a little tiny bit about me, you know, some people who know me will know my whole life story, and that's fine. But for others, this is like an introduction for you. I've been studying martial arts since the age of like 16, I want to say. Is like just turning 16. I was just started martial arts. Throughout the years and to where I am now, I've reached my black belt. I've reached my certificate. I've gotten my certification to teach the martial art that I've studied for so many years. And I do have to give a lot of props to that community of people for really supporting me early on, and sharing a lot of useful information about things that I was way too young to be learning about. But I was like a guinea pig in it, because it was just like, it was the first time where like a young student was really learning a lot of like esoteric knowledge. Not necessarily saying that I was like some special prodigy or anything, not by any means, please don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying like a lot of information on there was talked about that normally wasn't talked about with a 16-year-old, especially with like, you know, people who've been studying it for many years. Talking to you about energy, you know, the biophenomenon that's going on in the body, the electrical and magnetic field around the body, and you know, the power of manifestation of thoughts, of what spells and you know, any type of form of mind or manipulation, being able to defend yourself from not only physical, mental, but also, you know, spiritual or attacks of any kind. So it definitely built a rock solid foundation. And I got more comfortable with who I was and my background and my story of where I came from. And there's a lot that I could talk about my childhood, which maybe I will talk about. Maybe. I don't want to talk about the past in a way to where I am downing anything that happened in my life, because there's been very stressful and terrible things that have happened in my life that have, in hindsight, pushed me to grow into the person I am today. And I am very proud of where I am right now, coming from everything that I came from, everything that was there to kind of like hold me down and turn me into a certain person, and to kind of like reach beyond that and think for myself, and to have a conscious decision on like, no, you know what, I will determine, you know, my life and how I react to life in every situation that it brings. And that's a very hard thing to do, because there's a lot of people out there that want to have influence over you and want you to have a certain influence and spread a certain dialogue. So I want to be open, and I want to be as honest as possible with this. So 2017 started out with me losing a job that was straight up trash. It seemed promising at the time, but it was just straight up trash. It was a small organization, and I'm not going to bring the name in, because, like I said, I'm not downing it. I don't want this to take away from the point that I'm trying to make. The next part was the house that I was living in, the apartment that I had. I lost that as well. I was, in essence, either kicked out or moved out, whatever your preferred method is. The point is, I had to make a movement. I was also involved with a relationship that I was involved with for many years. 5 to 7 years on and off, with this one person. And this person, I built a life around. We were trying to build a family, and we're trying to have a family. And unsuccessfully, that got torn away. So, I lost my job, I lost a relationship, I lost my house job. That was already hard to deal with, especially with someone that you've been so emotionally involved with for so long, and a very crucial point of your life, a part where a lot of people come and go, but to have one person stay there and you grow with that person for so many years, that person is more than family to you. It's like you can never deny those experiences that you have with that person. So, like I said, speaking about this, I want to be very careful, because I want to speak from my truth and the reality of me, without shaming or trying to paint a bad picture on someone else. So 2017 started out that way, and 3 days later, January 3rd, my grandfather passed away. My grandfather was a veteran and a holy man, because that dude really went out of his way for the community of which we live in. He constantly would volunteer for the food bank, delivering food for families in need, and in always being a part of the community. This guy was truly a hero, and he is truly missed. And so may my grandfather rest in peace, Howard Dudley. He was a strong man, and he built the foundations which kept our family afloat to this day. And after everything that happened, that was coming in closure of 2016, I was finding out that I was cheated on. I found out that we probably had a miscarriage. I found out that the person that I was with ended up getting pregnant by someone that they just met. I realized that my grandfather passed away. I lost my job. I didn't have a place to live, so I had to move back in with my mom, which was like one of the most knockdowns that I had faced at the time, because I was, from my thought and my perspective, was like I was doing well. I was on top of things, to where I'm at a very young age, already moved out, getting, paying my bills, making sure that I have food, actual food, and being able to make it work. And I really believe that. And that added a lot of stress, which then turned into setting the groundwork for a lot of the changes that happened at the end of 2016 leading into 2017. So 2017 did not start out well, but it broke me down. It broke me down as everything that I had built myself up for since high school, outside of that, into college, and into outside of college, into my personal life, and how I was developing as a person and as a family. So it tore all of that away, and forced me to be left with myself. And at the time, I was 245 pounds, almost 250 pounds. I was very, very overweight and very unhealthy. And as I was telling you before, I've been studying martial arts since 16 years old. I was a very physically fit person. I've always been very slim. And slowly, I slowly got out of like playing music, which is another thing that just real quick, I've also been playing music since the age of 14. I have a music video up on YouTube that I'll go ahead and put in the description below, so you guys go ahead and check that out. I've recorded with many bands and studied audio engineering, which has been like my strong passion, which led the foundation to exploring a YouTube channel and making music, making content, and just bringing a community together. So with that, I stopped playing music. I stopped, exercising. I stopped, meditating and doing a lot of like the yoga and stuff that kept me up. And my diet shortly after that changed completely. I started drinking soda again, started eating a lot more sugar. So I started gaining a lot of weight. Now as a child, I had a huge weight issue. I was always overweight. So when I was skinny, I never felt it. I never felt that I was skinny. I would always look at myself and just see that image of like being a lot bigger than what I truly was. And I got really, really slim, almost unhealthy, skinny. But then I gained a lot of weight. So I had to then get myself back into the shoes of like, yeah, I'm an overweight person again. And I didn't have confidence in myself. So, that's a very rough thing and very sensitive thing to talk about. But at the beginning of the year, with losing everything that I've built myself up for, I lost it all. I lost every ounce of it and was left with something that I wasn't okay with, something that I was ashamed of and heartbroken by. And I fell into a very intense depression, which it's not something that stemmed off from that. It wasn't just these experiences that caused me into the depression. Like this was my first traumatic experience. No, I was bitten in the face by a dog where it took off my entire cheek when I was the age of like 5. I almost lost my life a few times. I've dealt with, wanting to take measures to do things to myself that wasn't healthy. I want you to understand that, I don't want this to be like, oh, I lost a girlfriend and I'm so sad and I can't carry on, because that's not what it was. It was like I lost a family member. I lost like everything that I had worked for many years just to fail like in the most destructive way that you can think. And like when your spirit is already broken and you have no one around, I just felt like completely alone. I didn't have a good relationship with my mom or any of my family members that I can go and talk to. I didn't really have any good friends because at the time, it was hard for me to turn to even them. So I felt this moment of isolation, and I was pretty much faced with the idea of whether or not I am either going to give up or I'm going to continue on. So I made that choice. I made that choice that is like, look, I'm going to have to stand back up on my own 2 feet, and I'm going to have to do it independently. I can't rely on someone else. I can't rely on others to do it for me. I'm going to have to stand up on my own 2 feet and really walk, dust myself off and walk. And that's what I did. So after not having a job, not having anything to do but to suffer my own mental depression and everything that had happened, I decided to make a change. So what I did is I started drinking alkaline water, water specifically above the pH of 7.2 to 7.4. Um, from my understanding, with drinking alkaline water, not only an ionized water um, with electrolytes and all that goody stuff, natural minerals, it helps your body in multiple ways. One, as far as getting oxygen in your blood, so it hydrates you faster. So if you're dehydrated, it gets your body more hydrated. So that's always a good thing, especially if our body is 80% or something like that, something along that lines of water. So water is very important to us, and good water is as well. Now,
water sucks.
but it was good. I felt like it was a good cleanse to my body. Um, the pH level of it as well is, from my understanding, it's very hard for cancer cells to survive in anything of a pH above 7.4 or 7.2. Um, so there's just benefits that I felt that was necessary for me to start taking in consideration of what I'm putting into my body. So water
Sucks.
thing, but that's not the biggest thing. It was like I also did a ton of exercise, and I went back to my principles of what my martial arts taught me from the beginning of building my foundation. Is when that was broken and I was left with nothing, I had to restructure my foundation to allow it to make sure that no matter what I build on from here, it's going to always have this strong foundation that I built myself, that only I can break. And that's important because, like, you don't want to, like, and that's a double-edged sword, because you don't want to push yourself up to where you're like egotistically like building yourself up to where like, yeah, like I have so much confidence in myself, and in arrogance. You don't want to turn that confidence into arrogance. So so I wanted to find a fine line of, like, making sure that me as an independent person knew who I was, knew what I had to deal with, and knew how I wanted to handle situations. I had enough faith in my intellect, that in my experiences, that I can navigate the waters myself. So I started exercising, for a lot of hours a day. I had nothing else. I had that time, I didn't have to worry about rent because I moved back in with my family. So a lot of that was, spending that time on meditating, having a morning routine, making sure that I'm more conscious about what I'm eating during the day and how am I interacting with myself and others. And really building back up a friendship with a lot of my with a lot of my family, because they were the ones that were around, and there was a point that, we just lost our grandfather, and that was a time for the family to come together. And anything, but that's not the point that I'm trying to get at. Is I just want to give a simple review of like what 2017 was for me, and where I am now, and why I'm pursuing this at the time that I am now. It is hard to talk about because there's so much there, and there's a fine line of, like, I don't know how many people are going to view this, or who's going to view this. I know my close friends network, I know that who I expect or who I think would watch it, but there's also the possibility of so many more people watching it than I expect it to watch. So I want to have a fine line of like how much personal detail I want to give away here. But so yeah, it was rough to start out 2017. And then I found a way to build myself back up. So by mid-February, about a month and a half, I went from 245 all the way down to about 200, just about 200, maybe 210 to like 208 or something like that. The idea is that I lost about 30 pounds, 30 to 45 pounds in a span of about a month and a half. And that is a absurd and huge amount of weight to lose. and I did it myself. I went back to the principles that I knew were true. I understood, how the body operates, how the body, um, the biology, the biology of the human, and how, everything. What's up, Tanky Tank? But yeah, so I just had a good understanding of like how my body operated and what I needed to do to really change or to see a physical change in my body, which I did. I was dedicated to it, and I was dedicated to improving and moving forward. You live with someone for so long that you always you create a habit of like then experiencing life with that person and always having that person around. So when that's taken away from you and you have to relearn a lot of things, and at that time is also another good point to reflect as well, because I also played my part into what happened. No one's perfect, and we all make mistakes. So I don't want to just strictly put blame on this one person for causing a huge depressing moment of my life, because it also changed me and it pushed me in a way that, how can you say I did not need to be pushed that way when I lost almost 40 pounds within a month and a half? That's that's an impact. That shows physically how much of an impact this experience had on me. So 2017 wasn't all bad, but a lot of things changed. We have a new president. We have a new social contract that is going around, and how we want to progress as a society, as people, as a nation, as a community, and as people. So we're at a very strange time. And what I'm getting at here is that in 2017, a lot of conversations have started. And 2 weeks later, a new conversation has started without really following up on what happened last week. Why? Because there's so many things that happen on a daily basis, on a mass scale, whether it's, tragic events that are happening across the globe, across this nation, across communities, different communities coming into certain locations and stirring up trouble, and trying to make a point or trying to make, a statement or whatever. You also have a lot of suppression of certain communities and certain people and certain people's voices as well. So a lot of stuff has been talked about. And one thing that I want to do with my channel, and this is where the scope of the conversation begins for me, because I can give you what 2017 was for me, what I experienced. I remember going to Yogaville for the first time and realizing, that whole aspect of yoga and the importance that people put on it, and the positive effects that it can have on a community of people. So, there was that. There was a lot of first experiences. There's a lot of new friends that came along. There's these relationships that then, solidified and grew stronger because of what happened, and some relationships just broke off and just left, and that's okay, because life carries on. And like it's crazy, because like in my first in the video that I'm going to post down in the description below of my video called What I've Become, when I was in a band called Los Reckoning. I was very young, and we got a chance to work with two great organizations, one the Music Resource Center and two Lighthouse Studios, which picked my band or my group as someone that they want to help make a music video for. If you're not familiar with the two programs, I highly recommend you guys checking those out. They're wonderful programs. I have much passion and much appreciation for everyone who works there, who has worked there, and who has been part of the program and pushed it forward. So the thing is, like, I don't mind spending hours talking about my experiences at these programs and the positive effects and how I can see it advancing and developing nationwide. But that's the thing. It's just like, for this, I feel like I just want to start a conversation with giving you some context of like where I'm coming from. If you're not familiar with who I am, at least give me an opportunity to introduce myself. One thing that I've just been very terrible at as just starting, it's like it should be the easiest thing because you should just do it. But I've always like, no, 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 no. I gotta get it right. I gotta get it right. I gotta say the right things. I gotta do the right things. But simply enough, my channel got inspired by finding out with YouTube and gaming. Like I said, I've always studied audio engineering, and I've been a part of the martial arts community within, what I was studying and teaching. So I knew, things that I wanted to do and things I found fascinating and what I wanted to work on to create and share with others. The biggest thing for me is that I got disconnected from a lot of people, and I don't necessarily want that to be the case. It's a lot of my family members live down in another state, very, very far away from me. So it's hard for me to stay in contact with everyone. I felt like, the gaming channel was like the best way that I could still, display my personality, display myself, and just have a good time, but also create something that I can share. YouTube was a big part of how I spent my time back in 2014, 2015, leading up into 2016. I got more involved into it, and I started realizing, the scope of what YouTube is and what it has to offer. And that's diversity. It's like people go on YouTube for makeup tutorials, software tutorials, DIYs, do it yourselves, gaming, blogging, history, or just education. And then there's just the humor as well. There's so much that's there on YouTube, which I love. It's like, I think it has a place in our heart amongst everyone that has been a part of YouTube and who looks at YouTube almost every day. It became a powerhouse. And in 2017, due to a lot of stuff, a lot of the occurring events that has happened has pushed YouTubers and the company to move a certain direction to fit in with the times. And some of it can be justified rationally of just like things that I feel like we can get behind. Like the censorship on YouTube now has, in some people's eyes, killed certain YouTube channels. And in a way, you can't argue that. You definitely have to say that it is. But if you're not familiar with the YouTube censorship, I can spend a whole hour on explaining the different organizations that are now involved with it. What determines whether or not you're going to be able to get paid for it. Some YouTubers I've heard described as you could be working at McDonald's and probably be making more money monthly than a person with a million subscribers or a million views on their YouTube. So to where it gets to the point where like YouTube creators are creating all this wonderful content, and I mean wonderful, wonderful content, and only getting a few $100s a month. And a few $100s to some people might sound like a lot, but like when you're trying to build a career and you're trying to have this like self-sustaining, it's a very hard thing to do. So people have been now like kind of changing. People will adjust and people will learn how to survive, especially when they're given limitations. So, which is cool because it's like it's now beginning a new phase, and this is where it's all wrapping up into. It's just like where YouTube is now and how I, beginning my YouTube experience at the end of 2017 and ushering into 2018 is I have to be very careful because for me, what my channel, what I want it to be is community. I want to create content and I want to have my little piece of it, that I can share, that I can spend time on, and whether the criticism is there or feedback is not necessarily like make or break, because I'm always going to look for ways to expand myself. I'm always going to look for ways to, to better my content or do a better job at what I'm doing. Um, but what I would like to see moving forward is to continue discussions like this. Not only gaming, because gaming, like I said, is a way for me to just have fun. One of the biggest things I think, with YouTube gaming that a lot of people don't understand is it's a new form of entertainment. Um, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy playing video games. I've always been a fanatic of video games. And in my future, as far as like a job and other stuff, I'm obviously I'm working right now. Um, I have ways to sustain what I'm doing, which is I'm at a weird point, because where I see the YouTube not sponsorship, but uh, fuck, why can't I think right now? Censorship. That's another thing. I can't say that word. It's just like profanity and like any type of like religion, or like there's certain keywords that when you just say it, it triggers the AI, and it makes them think whether or not you're eligible to have ads on your videos. And that was like the main way that YouTubers are able to make money, was through just putting ads on their videos. And so it just became adpocalypse, to where it became very hard for people to make videos, or not make videos, but make money off of it. And like I said, YouTube can be justified with the censorship, because the reason why they took that is because of let's look at some of the organizations. The No Hate Speech, the ISD, which is the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, and also ADL, Anti-Defamation League. Excuse me. So those three organizations are pretty much in control of the censorship that YouTube now has. So it really determines whether or not your video can get an ad on it, whether it's family friendly. Now, that's very controversial, because video games can be seen as family friendly. There's certain parts to it that there's a lot of video games that has been censored and had to be changed and outright banned in certain countries because of this. So like, you have a powerhouse, and you have this way of like how you want to progress, but you have to do it in a very careful way. And I think like one of the worst parts about it is like, YouTube did very little to communicate with people out there who who are using YouTube for what YouTube is supposed to be, is creating content and broadcasting yourself. And I think that's one thing that YouTube has forgot over the years, is to broadcast yourself. I remember seeing that on the YouTube homepage, is YouTube, broadcast yourself. It was amazing, because it was just like, you're not having to go in front and audition in front of anybody or interview. You just simply be yourself, and those people that like it will support you. And that brings up another discussion of like perception of like, what is support, how does one be successful, which brings me to, I guess, like my main point of this video, or this podcast, or whatever you want to call it, is how I want to move my channel moving forward. Because yes, I would like to make a career out of this, to where, one day I hope to quit my job and just solely work on creating valuable content for you guys. I enjoy entertainment. I enjoy being in the field of entertainment. I have no problem, taking heat of things that I feel like needs to be talked about. Am I the right person to be talking about everything? Absolutely not. And I'll be the first one to say that. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to do my part and really hoping that I can do something. I feel like, with a lot of the communities and a lot of the stuff that has happened, week to week, with a lot of different organizations and communities coming in to cause conflict of other communities, There's been a huge disconnect with relationships of misunderstanding. There's things that need to be talked about. What you see when you look outside your window is different to everyone. So even mainstream or major animations uh, uh, that are targeted towards the youth has adult humor in it, which they put it in, and that's still family friendly. So it's just like, how can we determine so quick on what needs to be demonetized and what allows people to flourish? Because ultimately, it's the viewers that should determine a person's success and whether or not they can make a career out of that. Um, which brings me to my another point is some people are either going to move with the times or either just quit YouTube and go to different platforms, maybe focus more on Twitch and live streaming. Other people are going to be focusing on possibly just going to a different video, broadcasting network. I'm not sure. And I'm not sure, how I'm going to move forward with it too, because there's a lot of changes that have been bringing up. Um, I've been working on YouTube since 2015. I've been slowly like gathering all the resources that I feel like I would need to, a nice microphone, the audio converter, the 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 programs, everything that it takes to make a video with good high quality. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. So over the time and over the years, I've slowly gathered all the resources to where here I am today. And I've first started out playing two things I've really done videos for. One's for software and one's for video, and you can go ahead and check out my channel and watch those. Like I said, I feel like gaming is a new form of entertainment. It allows people to fill in space of, I don't want to say loneliness, because that's not the idea that I'm trying to push, but it fills in a space of hanging out with someone, honestly, like just having fun. Video games is just about community. A lot of video games nowadays, like, you have to be a part of a community to play the game or to really advance into the game. Destiny being one of the prime examples. It's very hard for you to progress in that game unless you're a part of a fire team, and that fire team has to be at least 6 people. So it encourages the person to either play with friends or make new friends, um, which is great for a community and for a game. Yeah, but there's a lot of disconnect between a lot of different communities, and a lot of communities have very important things to say, and a lot of people are being suppressed. So in a very crucial point where dialogue needs to be priority, how much censorship should we have moving at this point of time? Because you could have like the idea of how you want to develop it over time, but to just bring in all these changes and expect people to immediately be okay with every ounce of it, you're not going to get everything right. There's going to be a lot of mistakes, and at least you're doing something, so for there's certain praises, but there's also certain setbacks that you're putting amongst like real content. And that's the thing. When you look at these organizations, who are they being funded by? If you know who they're being funded by, please post that in the comments below, and I'm pretty sure you'll be very surprised on where these fundings and who's behind a lot of these programs. So that within itself is a whole nother thing. But as much as I want to do with YouTube and how much I want to do and just my life in general, 2018 hopefully will continue to push me in general, neither good nor bad, but just advance me more and more as a person. That's ultimately what I hope to seek from it. I feel like support will come along the way, And I'm not sure whether or not I want to even go along the routes of trying to monetize my videos, because when you go into there and you start going into like having a voice over your channel of like who's paying you, it disconnects of like what you want to say. Now there's bigots out there and there's just flat out wrong information, which is like, it's good to even not to just censor it completely and just be like, you're completely wrong, you need to be taken off, like, because that really infringes upon the right of freedom of speech. And that's a very fine line, because if you're using that freedom of speech to incite something that is hateful, and that is just ultimately trying to bring a society or group of people or a race of people down and suppress them, and it's enough to where you can grow enough people to go above the government and hopefully take control of it, that needs to be checked, and that needs to be very carefully, navigated. But there's like I said, there's a huge conversation that I feel like there's just so much that we could talk about, which is what I want to start doing is podcast along with my gaming. My gaming can be something that kind of takes away from the stress of everything that is out there to stress you out and cause you panic and to think that the world is about to end. But during the time to watch something and be free of concern and just see someone who's like completely open with themselves, and yeah, I understand there's going to be judgment. I understand that people are going to find my voice, my face annoying. That's fine. I find this annoying sometimes too, but some people laugh at it, and that's a great feeling too. I love making people, just watch something or just laugh their freaking butts off. So I'm now doing the research of like all the new censorship that 2017 has to offer with YouTube, and moving forward, I have to then change the words that I use, because certain keywords, like I said, will then either get your video taken down or get a lot of crap for what's on your video. So I'm navigating whether or not I want to even put ads or go into the whole world of like gaining money and support that way. Because at the end of the day, anything that you do, it all comes down to the community, because that's who is going to support anything. So there's a certain perception that you need to have. And I think, which is the reason why people put perception of a certain thing at the very top of the list, because we're social beings. We want to have a social interactions, and we have to have social interactions. And we built a system where you have to have that, but yet it also, conditions you in a very, unhealthy way. And it takes a lot to move beyond that. And you need a strong group of support to help heal the wounds of very, very deep and sensitive issues and experiences. So I don't want to be the only voice here. With my podcast, I hope to get other people in the community and community leaders that are making a positive influence in the city I live in right now. And I hope to connect with them, and I hope that they're open enough to come and sit down and talk with me, and have a roundtable discussion about a lot of these issues and a lot of these conflicts that we see in the world, and how we move, or what is the best way that we could move and start building a community. And when you say a safe space, that's very there's so much that is now tied into that idea of safe space and why somebody would go and choose that route of creating one. But like I said, when you look outside your window, everyone sees a very, very different reality. So when a relationship starts to wither away, and you understand like a lot of it is misunderstanding and miscommunication, it really takes a community leader to come together and say, we got to do something, or we got to talk about it. And I'm not saying I'm the first one doing it, not by any means. I'm not saying I'm the only one that should be talking about it or should be doing it. But I am saying that this is my part. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I wish to give to everybody and everyone. I don't wish to offend anybody by any means. However, I do understand that there are going to be topics that are going to be discussed that are going to be very controversial, that need to be talked about. And sometimes I'll have a great voice, sometimes I won't. But I hope to invite those who feel like could be a great voice and, experience and, all the papers and all that stuff, I'm not too worried about. I want to get a realness, a rawness of like what is out there, what is this world, and we're at a very crucial point to where our generation is now breeding a new generation, along with like the baby boomers and that whole gap, and like how we're the biggest generation since the baby boomers, and how we're not having kids, and it's so much that goes into it, which is like I don't want to be the only voice. So I'm using this opportunity to invite you into 2018 with a sense of hope that hopefully that us talking about it and informing, more people about anything, we'll see where it goes from there. And I'll do my best to navigate those waters the most appropriate way that I see fit. And none of it will be possible without the support of you. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you so much for liking my videos and commenting and helping me out. Because like I said, I'm starting out and I pick a very strange and odd time, a very unique time to begin this. But this is what my life was set up for. Like over the course of years and gathering these resources and where I got to and how I got to now, and now with the resources that I have available towards me, like it is allowing me, it is like independently allowing me to create this stuff and share it. So that's one takeaway, is that I feel like support will come along to where I don't necessarily have to worry about like I need to make family friendly appropriate things to where I can get ads on my videos. So when you watch my videos, you get blasted with 4 freaking ads. Most of the time with corporations, things that I don't necessarily agree with or align with my morals. So I feel like, there's something good to come out of this, because it can start a new level of support of how we want YouTube to move forward. Because if they're not going to change it and make it acceptable for everyone, then we need to find other alternatives. And no alternative is going to work unless it has the support of people that's willing to do it. And that, I just want to lead as an example, to finish off on an example, is something that's very interesting that is happening with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, the idea of currency in general, is just people agree that that's our currency. The Federal Reserve is an independent organization. It's not government. It's not a government. Okay? So it's just something that we agree to as a society. And Bitcoin is like that same idea. Now, I understand there's a lot of flaws and there's a lot of fluctuation with it, but there's some very interesting things that are happening with it as far as alternative currency worldwide. And that's something that we could watch very, very closely. And I'm very interested to see how that moves forward. So do I feel like it's the end of YouTube? No, because people are always going to be broadcasting themselves. And as, computers and technology becomes more and more part of our lives, which is also another thing that we should be getting into, is how much technology we should see as advancement, and if technology is even seen as an advancement, because there's a lot of setbacks that we see with it. So like I said, there's a lot that I want to talk about, and I want you to be involved. So if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, leave a comment down below on your thoughts, and what you would like to talk about. If you're interested in setting up a podcast to talk about a particular issue, go ahead and shoot me a message, and we'll work those details out. We'll send it out to the community, see how they feel, see if it's something that they want to continue to talk about, and we'll get something started. So thank you so much for watching. I did not think that it was going to go on this long, and I'm sure I did not do a great job at like discussing everything that I could have discussed, but it's a start, and it's the end of a year, and it's the beginning of a new one. So as we bring in a new year, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, is there anything else, like one other thing that I could put in there? Yeah, there is one thing, and that's that Black Lives Matter. Don't ever forget. With that being said, let us start talking, and let us start building a community of people together of like, okay, well, you want to know our experiences? Well, we're going to start telling you, and we're going to be real about it. And you're not going to like it, and it's not going to be your fantasy world. There's going to be a huge disconnect on how you were think, or how you were conditioned to think how it was, and the reality of how it is actually. And having an independent voice of like no overarching, puppeteers of just like, oh, we are going to determine whether or not you're allowed to say that, or if you can talk about that. It's like, I want to have anything on the table. So please join my conversation. Please join the conversation. This is not where it ends. It's just the beginning, and hopefully it will continue going for a very, very long time. So with that being said, happy New Year's, everyone. Happy holidays, happy whatever, happy life, happy day, happy wonderful experience. Just thank you for being you. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye, everyone. Black Star Embassy.